That right there is why you get a copywriter to write your bio so that you don't sit there and go, I'm writing this all about myself. Someone else is writing this about me. It's fine. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for coming out in this cold, roadwork-filled morning to hear my talk about rhythm. Okay. Or, as I like to call it, finding your rhythm in the total and utter chaos shit show that is freelancing. So, I myself, for the past few months, you would know me as your pricing queen, and I've been up here dishing out the food for thought on all things pricing and creative business. But today I'm talking more about my own journey, which is a very scary situation because this is kind of the first time that I've talked really openly about how I kind of got here. And the funny thing is, even though I have been on this stage for the past few months doing this regularly, and I've taught 25 masterclasses this year and mentored some incredible creatives, some of them who are in this audience today, I still get nervous. I still get scared. I'm still shaking in my not quite boots. So let's take a deep breath together. And let's do this. Cool. So when I generally start a masterclass, I generally start with defining whatever the hell I'm talking about that particular month or that particular week. And today's subject being rhythm, there were two of my favorite rhythm definitions, which was the recurring sequence of events or processes and the strong, regular, repeated pattern of movement. So this is what we're looking for. And if I was to define it, I would say it's predictable, it's consistent, and it's repeatable. Those are the things that we're looking for when we are just moving through our day-to-day, but also when we are choosing a career, choosing a partner, choosing a food, because let's be honest, we want a predictable, consistent, reliable cheese sandwich, right? So rhythm actually exists in everything. Take the most basic examples, your breath. Right now you have created a rhythm with your breath. The beating of your heart is consistent, it's predictable, it's recurring. And the routine that your Thursday generally takes, maybe not today because it's thrown out by us, but all the things that are a pattern or a sequence of events that are predictable, they're consistent, they have a repetition to them, and they can be relied on in most cases. Now, when it comes to rhythm, some people clearly have it. Some people say that there are people who are blessed with rhythm, that they have that innate ability to find that consistency, that repeatability, that rhythm. And then there's some people that are not so much. So as a creative, or better yet, as a human, there will be days where the rhythm comes naturally and it seems to find you. But there are other days where you need to find it again, like that misplaced favorite pen in the bottom of a drawer, or that particular recipe that you cooked once and can never find again in your history tab. So we are surrounded by so many examples of rhythm in our day-to-day lives, we just don't realize that they are actually happening. So, for instance, the sound of rain that was happening this morning on the Commons roof or on your roof as you drove here. The fact that we know tomorrow is Friday, that's a good rhythm. We know that then day after Friday is Saturday and we can rest and relax and recuperate. And we can rely that basically the weekend pattern is about to kick in, that reliable, consistent pattern, that rhythm. We seek out predictability, consistency, and repetition because it's what makes us feel safe. It makes us feel secure, and we know what's going on. So it's no wonder that the complete unpredictability, inconsistency, and lack of repetition that freelance brings scares the absolute shit out of us. Freelance by its very nature lacks all things that are rhythm and that rhythm is known for. It's rare for 2 days or 2 clients to be the same or to have a consistency in your income or the type of work that you're taking on. There's zero consistency when it comes to work. The clients are inconsistent, and don't even get me started on how unpredictable the dollars can be, especially when you just simply wanted a job that was going to make you happy, make you money, and make you feel whole. And you wanted to create something that didn't exist yesterday to help someone tomorrow. Now, freelancing and being creative, it's kind of like listening to jazz. Oh, wait, not that one. That one. That's better. So you spend half of the time trying to work out the rhythm and the melody of jazz, and the other half trying to work out whether you even liked jazz music in the first place. So at least that's what it was like for me when I started being a creative, also when I started being a freelancer. But let me paint a picture on how I thought it would go. Okay, I would study design, and I would obviously be amazing at it. I would go through my studies, I would ace all my classes, get straight A's, and all of the teachers would absolutely love me, right? And then I would graduate and I would walk effortlessly into a career, effortlessly into a studio that loved me, that I loved being there, and they were not only willing but able to pay me the dollars that I deserved. I'd work hard, I'd get promoted, I'd go through the company, and I'd make my way up that corporate ladder. No ceiling in sight, of course. And I would make my way through that, going from a junior to a midweight designer, whatever the hell that means, side note. Then to a senior designer, and then initially to an art director or a creative director. And then I'd just be that good that I would walk out and create my own studio. It would be called TYD, Tidy Studio, the yellow door. It would have a yellow door at the front. I'd planned it all out. This was what my flavour of success was going to be. This is exactly how my creative career was going to go. Lol. So did not. Okay, so here's how it actually went. Now, we're going to go through this quickly, so steer with me. Okay, so I started out with the first step all right, studying my advanced diploma in graphic design, and because this girl is an overachiever with a Virgo eldest daughter complex, I also went and got a design job at the same time. Well, more accurately, that was a sign job. It was signage, not design. Anyway, semantics. Those two letters don't need to be there. Then I graduated, great. But then I worked in a print room, which is not a studio. Then I worked in a marketing job, again, not a studio. Then I got another marketing job, because, consistency. And then, finally, I got the studio job. Yes, this is the feeling of success. I've made it to the studio job. This is the third step in my grand plan. This is where I needed to be. Spoiler alert, it really sucked. That studio sucked the life out of me. It was horrible. It was not where I wanted to be, and I found myself doing the subway pages and the commercial real estate section of the local newspaper as a fun day. So I had my Stacey Orico moment, said there's got to be more to life, and took myself, my husband, and we moved from Adelaide to Melbourne to do the most logical thing, right? Start a musical theatre degree. Yeah, perfect. Right on track. Exactly where I was supposed to be. That's the next logical step, right? So I started a musical theatre career. Yeah, that sucked too. That sucked even more, actually. I learned pretty quickly that this was not the rhythm that I was looking for, and I was actually looking for something that was more helpful to my creative soul rather than crushing it. I did not find my flavour of success tucked inside the unflattering bodice that is a ballet leotard. So I ran back into the loving arms of graphic design, but now I was in a new location. I was in Melbourne. It wasn't going to be like Adelaide. I was going to make it different. So I started being a designer for hospitality groups, and I spent those next 3 years bouncing around different design studios, different spaces, and then I went and did some work in design recruitment. Never really found that rhythm, but I ended up doing stuff for global magazines, contract work. I was also a designer for Rolex for a year because that's what you do apparently. And then I actually ended up in a studio right near here. And that sucked too. Sorry, spoiler alert, that one sucked the most. But it was the one that made me jump into freelance, as ready as I may have felt. But the funny thing is, when you feel like you're about to do something big and scary, you get the butterflies, right? You're about to leap into something that feels unknown, that feels scary, that feels like a new rhythm, and you want to get it right. So this one sucked, but it was the one that I pushed that I needed, and I learnt 3 really key things while going through all of those different examples of what creative success might look like for someone like me. Firstly, I got really good at problem solving. The great thing is that when you go into so many different businesses and so many different places, you get to understand that you have to act on your feet. It's kind of like in Grey's Anatomy when the ambulance rocks up and they all run towards it and they're like, okay, you do this and that and that. It's seriously problem solving at that time. And that's kind of what I was ending up doing, walking into these different places and solving their problems. I also got really good at first impressions. Really good at that interview process and setting the stage for what they could expect from me, what I could expect from them, and setting some really good boundaries, but also setting the stage for what I was going to wow them for. Second, I realized that there are so many different ways to succeed, that you can do business creatively in so many different flavors and so many different ways, and use this creative process not only to use those skills, solve their problems, but also to make money in completely different ways than what the traditional hours for dollars sort of situation was. And three, I just needed to be brave enough. I didn't need to be brave. I didn't need to be ready. I just needed to be brave enough to take that next step. And I wanted to find that for myself. I wanted to find what that creative success was and that creative rhythm that I could get into was for myself. Because every other one I had tried had been someone else's version of success. In fact, that last full-time studio that I worked literally around the corner there, they don't exist anymore, it's okay. They went bankrupt 6 months after because, they couldn't do without me. I cannot tell you that potent mix of complete fear and total elation and excitement I had the day that I left that place and started to shift into full-time freelance and defining that success for myself. Now, you would be sitting here thinking, wow, she got through a lot really quickly. We're here, we're at the end. And this is the part of the story where I'm supposed to tell you that everything went to plan and that the moment that I chose to step out there and do it all for myself, that is when the clients would not stop calling my phone. My bank account was so full. I was constantly doing all of the work that I'd always wanted to do that the studio life had been holding me back from, right? Yeah, that's a lie. No. Being a freelancer is a marathon, not a sprint. You cannot simply fast track the lessons that you need to learn along the way to gain the experience that you need to grow from yourself to be able to be valuable and more valuable than you were yesterday. Our experiences are what teach us the deepest, not the most, the deepest, and are what make our creative expression unique. After 15 years of being a creative, 7 of them being freelance, I can tell you that that is to date the best decision that I ever made to jump into that freelance life. Now, plenty of people will tell you this, that you, as a freelancer, there's things that you won't be able to do, that you're stepping into something that not everyone gets the same things. If you become a freelancer, you will never be able to afford a house or get a home loan. You'll never be able to buy a nice car. You'll always have to get the used version or the second rate or just something that was gifted to you when you were 16 and you called it Gizzy. Or you would be able to take time off, or you have to work weekends or nights, that you're never going to be able to take a 4 p.m. walk with the dog and not have to come rushing back to work. That you can't build career and financial stability as a freelancer. These are all things that I was told as a freelancer, even in those first few years, or even when I was starting to think about being a freelancer. I sat there and went, these are just things that I have to accept, that I'm never going to own a house, never going to have a car, never going to have that stability, and it's always going to be panic. If anything, I've achieved all of those because I'm a freelancer, and I've achieved them faster and more fruitfully for my own pursuits than when I was working for someone else, when I was working in a studio. And I will say freelancing is not for everyone, but it's what I found my flavor of success. And just a little bit of a humble brag moment, and if the ghost of Jasmine passed, who just finished up at the studio around the corner, was standing in this room, I would tell her that, yeah, you can create financial freelance success, because April last year, Jasmine Designs hit its $1 million moment, meaning that it had made $1 million. Meaning it made $1 million since the day it started, and I'm currently on track to hit the 2 million by end of next year. Those are words that are terrifying and exciting and kind of unbelievable to say, but I know that I've been able to achieve that, not because I'm the most talented designer, not because I'm the most incredible creative, but because I get to find ways to make it creatively work for me, and you can do the same. Okay. So this was my rhythm of success, my predictability, consistency, repeatable success that I'd finally reached in that past year. And when you think that you found that rhythm, that's when you're like, everything is working. You get those kind of groove moments. You're like, yes, everything's working. Clients are like inquiring. Money's come in. I'm kind of handling the work that's on my plate and I'm doing well. This is actually where you get thrown an extra instrument, an extra thing to deal with, an extra element that you have to make part of your creative rhythm. Mine happened on this day. Mine was an ADHD diagnosis at the age of 33, which is kind of full on to say out loud because this is the second time I've said it out loud and the first was on a podcast. Apparently, it was obvious to everyone around me. Not me. I didn't know. I thought all of my eccentricities and the way that I worked my brain were unique to me, and all my quirks were totally unlike anyone else. Nope, I am not a unique snowflake, as it turns out. It's like being absolutely obsessed with a particular band that you cannot help but just binge their music and constantly listen to them all the time. And then they're coming to town, so you get really excited and go to book a ticket, and you find that it's sold out with other people who are just as obsessed as you. I kept hearing myself saying things like, I'm sick of not reaching my own potential. I don't feel good enough. I know that I could do more if I was better or more organized, or if I had this whole freelance thing down pat, if I had made it. I'm so sick of letting myself down. I'm so sick of letting future me down. And everyone else around me is winning. Why am I struggling so much? If you feel like this too, please know that you are not alone. Jump into your GP's DMs or book a call, get a mental health care plan, because it is the first step to trying to work out how your brain works and how your brain can work best for you. So it became pretty clear that after that 33 years of creating that rhythm for myself, that something needed to change, that I needed to find the ways that I could kind of rewrite it so that I was able to be happy, able to see that happiness and consistency and actually see them as successes, not failures. So here's how I've been changing the rhythm for myself, and maybe this will resonate with you to try something like this too. So first, create your own version of rhythm in your day. No, that does not mean going and doing all of the blocking and the time blocking and the planners and the lists, because trust me, I've tried them. I've tried them all. Digital planners don't exist. Once it's on the computer, it doesn't exist to me. But it's working out what works for you. And it also does not mean getting up at 5 a.m. because that's what everyone else does. I do not get up at 5 a.m. My wonderful husband at the back here can attest to that. 8 a.m. is like generally pretty early for me. So finding out what works for you. I've tried all the timers, planners, every digital project management tool in the planet, and Post-its are my thing. I am a Post-it queen, and this is what works for me. Try all the things until you find out what works for you, and feel free to go back and test and try again and again until you find what works for you and makes you feel like you are the creative superhero that you are. Now, quiet times are part of the rhythm, and it's wonderful that Maz and I were talking about this earlier today. Quiet times are part of the rhythm. They are necessary. They need to happen so that you can have the highs and the busy times. If we sat at that high all the time, it'd be overwhelming. We wouldn't be able to get that balance for ourselves. Now, if you listen to some of the greatest songs of all time, they all have times where they are loud in that crescendo moment and quiet to make you think and make you feel. When things feel quiet in your freelance day, our impulse is to fill the space with stuff or things to do. And I know because I have those times where I actually have to stop myself and say, hey, just let it be. Let yourself have a quiet time so you can prepare for the busy. I know that it's always best to use those times to actually let them be quiet and try and find a way to enjoy the quiet. I do not say that as someone who has mastered that. I am not good on idle, but you find what works for you. Now, when you lose your rhythm, just keep moving. I go to a Zumba class every Sunday morning. Yes, I am that white girl. And I know that when I am there copying the moves and following it along, there will be some days where I'll miss a move or I'll go the wrong way. But as long as you keep moving, you're then able to pick it up and get back into that rhythm. Because if you stop, you've stopped, and then you have to start again. And starting things is an ADHD's nightmare. It's not fun. So the times that I felt the most stuck are when I let my fear hold me back from taking the wrong step. And I let my fear hold me in the ground that I'm in. We can't stop ourselves from moving because we're worried we won't make it perfect, that next step isn't the perfect one. And a majority of the time it won't be. That's okay. It means that you're moving and you're discovering that that's actually the wrong step, so then you can readjust and get the right step in play and re-pick up that rhythm. And that will be a blueprint for what you won't do again. When you make that mistake, you'll know not to make it again. Perfection is just procrastination in a different pair of pants. Okay, lastly before I go today, I want to thank everyone for being here. There is so many people in this audience that I have little nuggets of stories that have come into my creative rhythm at different times of my life, and I appreciate all of you. And those who I haven't met yet, I hope that we start creating a rhythm together, whether it be coming to Creative Mornings, chatting in my DMs, or finding a way for us to have an impact. Because the funny thing about rhythm is when it's multiple different rhythms all together and different melodies and different things that come all together, that's when it's most powerful. The fact that every single one of you sitting in this room or watching this replay, it means more than I can say. Being part of this Creative Mornings community, one that I sat down at that seat back in June with that guy, listening to Ellen Porteous, and sat there and said, I have to be part of this. I want to be part of this. And it has become part of the joy that I find in my creative practice. I hope today, whether this is your first Creative Mornings or simply another helping that you're coming back for, I hope this helps change the way that you creatively make your rhythm through each day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jazz. That was just as incredible as I knew it was going to be. I'm going to open the floor for questions, but I'm selfishly going to ask one first because I've got the microphone. So,
You've earned
Jazz, thanks. Freelancing is a challenge for anyone, but I think the mindset as a creative freelancer often brings additional challenges in that, you know, when you had your slide up of like, I'm never going to own a house or have the car that I want, whatever, it's like it's almost considered gross to have those aspirations as a creative person. You're meant to just do it because you love it and you can't help but get up and create. But like you might want to get up and create and also have a convertible. Like these things don't need to be mutually exclusive.
Soft top, navy blue, yes.
Right, yes, that is my car. So that mindset shift, I wonder if you have any kind of advice for the audience today around sort of trying to move away from that mindset shift of just because your job is something that you love doing, that you don't also deserve to be paid well for it.
Cool. So how much or how well do people do their job when they hate it? They hate it. They move through it, they begrudgingly do it, and they open a spreadsheet and they're like, damn it, I hate this life. Who wants that person on their team? Who wants someone who hates their job, who hates what they're doing, who hates the fact that they have to come into that cubicle 9 to 5? No one wants that guy. People want people on their team that are happy to be there, that are enjoying what they're doing, enjoying what they're creating. And that is a creative. We wouldn't do this if we didn't enjoy it. And the fact that you enjoy your job, that you enjoy what you're doing, actually makes you more valuable. It makes you more of a higher value because you're probably going to do your best work when you're the happiest. People, I guess the Legally Blonde quote of like, and happy people don't just kill their husbands. Happy people are the best people to work with. And when you have a creative who loves what they do, you get a more valuable experience. And there's nothing wrong with making money. We all want to do it. It's okay to say that you want to make money, and it's not about getting that dollar amount. It's about what you do with that money. That money is going to give you a lower stress rate. That money is going to give you the opportunity to say no to the shit that you don't want to say yes to, because we definitely have those kind of clients that we don't need to say yes to just because they're giving us peanuts. We're allowed to make money doing what we love. And if you need a permission slip, I'll write you one. I'm more than happy to.
I think you should do that, Jazz. I reckon
Yeah,
that would be
sure.
awesome. I'll hang it on my wall. And thank you for quoting one of my personal heroes, Elle Woods.
Yes,
Any questions for Jazz?
Definitely, I can admit to having all of these kind of like very small-minded concepts for like the first 10 years of freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of wrapping my head around like, okay, cool, this is a career, this is for life, I want to own a home, a car, like all the rest of the adults. But when you do like the shift from that thinking of limitation and you're thinking of possibility, it's like, how do you find what that realistic goal is for you at the point in the career that you're at and for the industry that you're in?
Mm-hmm.
Because I could also be like, yeah, fuck that, I want like a convertible and 10 houses and like an army of puppies that follow me. Then the sky's the limit. So how to find something that is like aspirational but also realistic for what you have to offer?
When you serve a cake, you don't plan how you're going to eat the whole cake. You plan how you're going to have the next slice and the next slice and the next slice. And then you adjust whether it's based on your hunger. So we don't want to plan for forever. It's all well and good with these business people who say 10-year plan and like have all of these. No, plan for now, because we as creatives, we love shiny things and we love to be able to redefine what that success is. So I would say work out what your 1-year goal is, break it down into pieces, and then look for people who have expensive problems that you can solve with your genius. There is a difference between expensive problems and cheap problems. A cheap problem is a flyer. An expensive problem is a brand. Because a flyer will get handed out and chucked in the bin. But a brand becomes who they are. This is why I don't believe in branding packages being anywhere south of 4 figures, ever, because that is devaluing how much they actually see it for. When it comes to industry, that can be feeling like a limitation. It can feel like, oh, I'm in this really niche industry that doesn't seem like it has much opportunity. Flip it. There's a reason why McDreamy specializes in brains. There's a reason why surgeons specialize in certain things, because they end up getting paid more to specialize in those solutions. They're able to get really granular on what they know and therefore become more valuable to those who are willing to pay. So if you get told you're too expensive, you either need to change the deliverables, change the outcome, or change the client, because you cannot convince a cheap client to be an expensive one.
Thank you, Jazz. It's a nice bit of punctuation, isn't it? I support your army of puppies, personally, just saying.
Chorizo is available for cuddles. So,
Any other questions for our pricing queen, Renee?
hey.
Hello. Do you find that you have different rhythms or energies throughout the course of the year, and how do you sort of leverage the high energy versus the low energy points?
Who's in pre-Christmas slump? Or as I like to call it, pre-Christmas can't be fucked. Yeah, seriously, very strong. Knowing that you're going into a slump or a pre-Christmas moment where you're not going to be wanting to or willing to work, you would adjust the way that, basically it impacts your capacity. So during December, I have a low capacity or tolerance for anything really, but I know I know that during December I'm not going to work for the last 2 weeks, at least not on client work. But then knowing that I've got a reduced capacity, I don't say yes to the things I don't want to do. And if I am inclined, I will push it to January. I will help freelance future me handle the panic that January comes with of, oh crap, now I need to fill my calendar with things. I did a masterclass last month called The Well-Fed Freelancer, which was really looking at what your capacity is first before you put yourself out there to get more clients, to get more work, or to get whatever you need to do to create that happiness for yourself. Knowing your capacity first, whether it be for the next month, the next 2 months, the next 6 months, is the first step, and then filling that capacity from there. I would say when it comes to trying to create that motivation to get out of that slump, don't force it. It will be poo. You'll think it's a fart. It's not. And you think that you can just push through it, but really just sit. Let it go. Let it be a lower capacity, because you know that the more that you rest now, the better your January is going to be. Poo jokes! Yay!
I love it. Just a quick follow-up question on that, Jazz, which is sort of the flip side of it. Like, and this is something that I am extremely, extremely guilty of, is saying, I just got to get through this week, 2 weeks, month,
I just
my
need to
life.
get through this week and then everything will be okay.
Right, which is not a way to live, right? Because then you're just wishing your life away. So any advice on the kind of flip side of that, of when, you know, things are going great, as in you're busy, but you find yourself not being able to be present because you're thinking, I just got to get through this project, week, month, whatever.
Yeah. As much as I don't do the time blocking, I do day blocking a little bit. So I will tend to go, okay, I've got all of this work that I've got on my plate. I need to to delegate what I can and what is not my area of genius. My area of genius is not Canva. It never will be. I will not accept that. So therefore, I get someone who is good at Canva to help me and to work with me. I also, when I talk to my Master Freelancers, my group coaching program, I say to them that understanding that everything on your plate is not your to-do list. Everything on your plate is not your to-do list. It's the things that you have that you can choose to either do, delegate, defer, or ditch. And choosing which one of those is really important, especially when you write it all out and then realize that some of those things you have zero control over. You're either waiting for a client to come back to you, so you're sitting in that idle of like, I'm ready to get those changes, come on. And then you stress yourself out and use all of that energy waiting to catch. But sometimes you just need to defer, say, I will do your changes when you get back to me, and that will be this Wednesday, and I will not touch it before then. Does that help?
That's perfect. Cool. Thank you. Do defer, delegate, ditch.
Yeah.
Love it. Any other questions for Jazz, the pricing queen? Yeah.
Hi. Thanks. Oh, just for something different for you, Maz. I think defining success is that moment where you take that breath, that you kind of go, that worked out. I don't think it's a destination. I think if we break it down into little bite-sized places that we sprinkle through our day, through our existence, we're going to be much happier, healthier people. Because if we're constantly pushing to get to that end, to find that success, and we get there and we go, oh crap, there's another one up there. And then we're not going to sit here. We're going to do a Leslie Knope and be like, great, awesome, let's get to work. And you're not going to enjoy that. So finding the little things that make success for you are really important. If I can give you one little Christmas break homework, take Maz's question and write out 10 answers for yourself. I don't want them to be big, I want them to be small. So defining success in that would be that I don't have to think about a purchase. That's a financial success marker. That I have a client say thank you to me, or that they feel that they are actually using the brand guidelines the way I told them to use them. That's a success marker. So finding your little success markers that you're able to do and to place in your day or your week or your month that you concentrate on, that's going to be more successful, more happy, and more healthy for you.
Love it. Thank you, Jess. Yeah, amen, sister. Unless there's one last burning question, looks like
ready.
there
Vic
is.
is ready.
Are there two?
Oh, two more. I just remembered your name before you were talking to Bobby. You had a great jumpsuit on, so I remember jumpsuits.
I was just wondering if you have any particular mentors or people that you kind of found along the way who helped you, I guess, find your rhythm or find your definition of success.
I think that there's not one single location. They are through the different characters that you meet constantly. The mentors that I've had along the way have been so many, and they don't know that they are those people. Just looking at Bobby and Maz, it's fine. These different people serve different elements to that flavour. When I was part of Melbourne Lettering Club, which I still am, if you are a lettering artist, Melbourne Lettering Club is the place to go. We used to do this thing where we would go to a pub and we would roll out this piece of paper on the table, and everyone would have pens and they would be drawing the different ways that they do letters, and you would watch each other and go, oh, I like that K, and you would implement that into your alphabet. And so creating that for yourself, and everyone has that different thing that they put towards, and you'll change it. You'll change that process as you go. Finding mentors, I think, is a really important process, but knowing that you don't want to be them. You want to take what makes them admirable to you and add that to your own. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you, Jazz. Mentors, certainly formal, informal, whether they know it or not, are incredibly important to shape us. Any last questions? Oh, thank you.
We had someone write in and ask if you could talk about super, or if there are any funds you recommend.
I find this wild. So you messaged me this last night and I was like, a super question. This makes me feel like a financial advisor. And I feel like I wish I could do that really like quick disclaimer of like, I'm a financial advisor. Any advice is given. What I have done, not would I advise or not advise, but what I have done is I have gone with a super fund that worked with my situation. So being a freelancer, knowing that I'm not going to be paying regular super, that it's more going to be lump sums and stuff like that, as well as getting really comfortable and familiar with what future you might want or need, because our super is basically our money that we put away for future us. I don't really think that I'll ever retire. Sorry, babe. But I know that it's really important for me to feel successful is not feeling like I'm failing. It's kind of like the opposite of it. So for me, I know that when it comes to June, I rely on the people who know more about money management, so my bookkeeper, my accountant, to put in an extra, I think the threshold is $27,500 into your super each year, which then lowers how much you get paying on tax. Like anything further than that, find someone you can trust as a bookkeeper, find someone you can trust as an accountant. If you need recommendations, I have those. I talk to my accountant, so I talk to my bookkeeper probably once every 1 to 2 weeks. And find someone who gives a shit about what you're doing so that you don't have to think about how you manage your money.
Love it. Well, on that super sexy note, let's hear. Oh, Jazz, before we let you go, is there anything you want to promote? You've got heaps of stuff going on all the time. Anything that you want to let people know about?
All the time. Okay, so if you are someone who hasn't come to the last 5 weeks of 5 months. Time flies when you're having fun. To Creative Mornings, you may not know that I have Creative Business Kitchen, but I also have a free pricing calculator. So if anyone is unsure about what they should be charging or putting as a dollar amount on their time, effort, energy, and value, head over to creativebusinesskitchen.com/CMM, Creative Mornings Melbourne, and you can access my free pricing calculator. Further to that, my DMs are always open for advice. I know that that's like something that people say, but seriously, the amount of people that I have ended up chatting with in depth and helping them work out what they want to charge and what they want to be valued at, it's one of my greatest joys.
Amazing. Well, let's hear it for the pricing queen herself, Jazz Designs. Thank you, my love.